The hospital discharge papers were still in her trembling hand when the front door slammed in her face. Nicole Hampton stood on the porch of the house she had called home for 3 years, her body still weak from giving birth to triplets just 5 days ago. December wind cut through her thin hospital gown and the worn cardigan someone had thrown at her. In her arms, pressed against her chest, were 2 of her babies. The third was in a carrier at her feet. All 3 were crying, their tiny voices piercing the frozen night air. It was 11:47 p.m. The temperature had dropped to 28 degrees. Through the window, she could see her husband Derek standing in the living room with his mother Patricia. They were not looking at her. They were laughing at something on the television, as if they had not just thrown a woman and her newborn children into the freezing cold. Nicole knocked again with her elbow since her hands were full of babies. The sound was weak, pathetic, like everything else about her life had become. "Derek, please," she called out. Her voice cracked. "The babies will freeze. Please just let me get their things. Their formula. Their blankets." The curtain moved. Patricia's face appeared, cold and satisfied. She made a shooing motion with her hand, like Nicole was a stray cat that had wandered onto her property. Then the curtain fell back into place. Nicole's knees buckled. She sat down hard on the frozen porch steps, clutching her babies closer. Little Elijah was turning red from screaming. Isaiah's cries had gone quiet, which scared her more. Baby Zoe, the smallest of the 3, was shivering in her carrier. This could not be happening. 12 hours ago, she had been in a hospital bed, exhausted but happy. She had just given birth to 3 beautiful children. Yes, the delivery had been difficult. Yes, she had lost a lot of blood. Yes, the doctors had wanted her to stay longer. But Derek had insisted she come home. He said the hospital was too expensive. He said she could rest better in her own bed. She should have known something was wrong when he did not come to pick her up himself. He sent his mother instead. Patricia had barely looked at the babies. She had complained the entire drive about how much trouble triplets would be, how expensive, how inconvenient. When they arrived at the house, Derek was not alone. There was a woman sitting on Nicole's couch. A woman with long red nails and tight clothes and a smirk on her face that said she had already won whatever competition Nicole did not know they were having. "Derek," Nicole had said, confused and exhausted. "Who is this?" He did not even have the decency to look ashamed. "This is Brenda," he said, like he was introducing a new co-worker. "She is going to be living here now." Nicole had laughed. She actually laughed because surely this was some kind of joke. Some terrible, tasteless joke that Derek would apologize for in a moment. But Derek did not apologize. Instead, he looked at his mother, and Patricia stepped forward with a manila envelope in her hand. "These are divorce papers," Patricia said, her voice dripping with satisfaction. "You have until midnight to sign them and get out of this house." "Excuse me?" Nicole's legs felt weak. She was still holding Isaiah. Elijah and Zoe were in their carriers on the floor. "I just gave birth 5 days ago. I cannot even stand up straight. Where am I supposed to go?" "That is not our problem," Derek said. He still would not look at her. "You should have thought about that before you trapped me with these babies." "Trapped you?" Nicole's voice rose. "Derek, we planned this pregnancy together. We tried for 2 years. You cried when we found out we were having triplets." "He was crying because he knew he would be stuck with you forever," Brenda said from the couch. She examined her nails like this conversation was boring her. "But I told him he did not have to be. I told him we could figure something out." Nicole stared at the woman. This woman who was sitting in her house on her couch, wearing what looked like her missing silk robe. "How long?" Nicole asked Derek. Her voice was quiet now. Deadly quiet. "How long have you been sleeping with her?" Derek finally looked at her. And what she saw in his eyes was not guilt or shame or regret. It was contempt. Pure, undisguised contempt. 2 years, he said. "Since before you got pregnant. I was going to leave you then, but you kept pushing for a baby. I thought maybe it would fix things. But it did not. You are still the same boring, poor nobody you always were." The words hit her like physical blows. Nicole sat down heavily on the nearest chair, clutching Isaiah so tight he started to cry. "I gave you everything," she whispered. "I worked double shifts to help pay for this house. I supported you when your father's business almost failed. I loved you. And I am supposed to be grateful for that?" Derek laughed, a cold, ugly sound. "You were a charity case, Nicole. My mother told me from the beginning that I was settling for less than I deserved. She was right." Patricia nodded, her arms crossed over her chest. "My son deserves a woman of quality. Not some orphan girl who does not even know who her real parents are." That was the wound that always hurt the most. Nicole had been abandoned as an infant, left at a fire station in a basket with nothing but a blanket and a note that said, "Please take care of her. I am sorry." She had grown up in foster homes, aged out of the system at 18, put herself through nursing school by working 3 jobs. She had built her life from nothing, brick by brick, only to have it torn down in a single evening. "Sign the papers," Patricia said, pushing them toward her. "You get nothing in the divorce. The house is in Derek's name. The cars are in Derek's name. Your joint account has already been emptied." Nicole's head snapped up. "What do you mean emptied? There was $20,000 in that account. I saved that money from my paychecks." "And Derek spent it," Patricia said with a shrug, "on Brenda's engagement ring. They are getting married as soon as the divorce is final." The room started to spin. Nicole looked at Derek's left hand and saw that his wedding ring was already gone. She looked at Brenda's hand and saw a diamond sparkling there. A diamond bought with Nicole's money. Her savings. Her future. "I will not sign anything," Nicole said. She stood up on shaking legs. "I'm going to call a lawyer. This is not legal. You cannot throw a woman out of her home 5 days after giving birth." "This is not your home," Harold Morrison spoke for the first time. Derek's father had been sitting in the corner, silent until now. "Your name is not on the deed. Your name is not on any of the accounts. Legally you are just a guest here. And we are asking you to leave." "Asking?" Nicole let out a hollow laugh. "You are not asking. You are forcing me out into the cold with 3 newborn babies." "Those babies are not my concern," Patricia said. "If you cannot take care of them, drop them at a shelter. That is what your mother did with you, is it not? Maybe it runs in the family." Something broke inside Nicole at those words. Something that had been holding together all the pieces of her heart, all the hope she had carried for her children, for her marriage, for her life. She looked at Derek one last time. The man she had loved for 4 years. The man she had married, believed in, sacrificed for. He was looking at his phone, texting someone, probably Brenda, even though Brenda was sitting right there in the room. Nicole signed the papers. She did not read them. She did not care anymore. She just wanted to get her baby somewhere warm before they got sick. "I need to pack some things," she said, her voice flat. "The baby's formula. Diapers. Some clothes." "You have 15 minutes, Patricia said. Nicole moved through the house like a ghost. She grabbed what she could carry. Formula, diapers, a few onesies. Her wallet. Her phone. She tried to pack some of her own clothes, but Patricia followed her to the bedroom and stood in the doorway with her arms crossed. "Leave the jewelry," Patricia said. "Derek paid for all of it." Nicole removed the pearl earrings Derek had given her on their first anniversary. She left behind the necklace from their second anniversary. She kept her wedding ring on because taking it off felt too final, too real. "The ring too," Patricia said. Nicole slid it off her finger and placed it on the dresser. Her hand felt naked. Empty. When she came back downstairs, Derek and Brenda were kissing on the couch. They did not stop when she walked past with her babies and her single bag of supplies. The front door closed behind her. She heard the lock turn. She heard laughter from inside. And now here she was, sitting on frozen steps at midnight, with 3 crying babies and nowhere to go. Nicole pulled out her phone. The battery was at 12%. She had no charger. She had no car keys because the car was in Derek's name too. She had no money because the accounts had been emptied. She had nothing. Except 3 tiny humans who were depending on her to keep them alive. Nicole scrolled through her contacts with numb fingers. There were only a few numbers saved. She had lost touch with most people over the years of her marriage. Derek had encouraged her to focus on family, on him, which she now realized was his way of isolating her from anyone who might help. There was one name in her phone that gave her hope. Simone Parker. Her coworker and the closest thing she had to a friend. Simone had texted her 3 days ago asking if she needed anything after the birth. Nicole had said no because Derek told her they had everything under control. Nicole pressed the call button. The phone rang once, twice, 3 times. "Please answer," she prayed. "Please, please answer." "Hello?" Simone's voice was groggy with sleep. "Simone." Nicole's voice cracked. "I need help. I am outside my house with the babies and they locked me out and I have nowhere to go and the babies are freezing and I do not know what to do." There was a pause. Then Simone's voice came back, sharp and alert. "Send me your location. I'm coming right now. Go to the nearest store or gas station, anywhere with heat. I will find you. Do not hang up the phone, Nicole. Stay on the line with me." Nicole stood up on legs that felt like they might collapse. She gathered her babies, 2 in her arms and 1 in the carrier, and started walking toward the glow of the gas station sign 3 blocks away. Behind her, the house she had called home for 3 years sat dark and silent, already forgetting she had ever existed. She did not look back. 4 years earlier, Nicole's life had been simple but full of purpose. She was 24 years old, working as a nurse at St. Catherine's Hospital in downtown Philadelphia. She worked the night shift in the emergency room, which was exhausting but paid better than day shifts. She needed the money. She was still paying off her student loans, still catching up from the years of poverty that had defined her childhood. Growing up in the foster care system had taught Nicole 2 things. First, she could only depend on herself. Second, kindness was rare and should be treasured when found. She had aged out of the system at 18 with nothing but a garbage bag full of clothes and a determination to build something better. She had worked as a waitress while attending community college. She had transferred to a nursing program on a partial scholarship and worked 3 jobs to cover the rest. She had graduated with honors, found a job, and rented a tiny studio apartment that she kept immaculately clean because it was hers. It was the first thing that had ever truly been hers. On the night she met Derek Morrison, Nicole was working a double shift. A construction accident had sent a dozen workers to the emergency room, and she had been running between beds for 12 hours straight without a break. Derek came in with a minor injury. He had been visiting one of his father's construction sites when a piece of debris scraped his arm. It barely needed stitches, but he insisted on staying in the ER until Nicole had a moment to check on him. "You look tired," he said when she finally came to examine his wound. "I am fine," she said automatically because she always said she was fine. "When was the last time you ate?" Nicole paused. She genuinely could not remember. Breakfast maybe? Or was it the granola bar she had grabbed yesterday afternoon? "There is a vending machine in the waiting room," she said, avoiding the question. "Let me clean this cut and you can be on your way." "Have dinner with me," Derek said. She looked up at him then. Really looked. He was handsome in an easy, confident way. Brown hair, green eyes, a smile that suggested he had never heard the word no in his life. "I do not date patients," Nicole said. "Then I will discharge myself." Problem solved. He grinned at her. "Come on. One dinner. I will take you somewhere nice. Somewhere you can sit down for more than 30 seconds. Nicole should have said no. She was exhausted, her feet hurt, and she had a stack of laundry waiting at home. But there was something about his smile that made her feel warm for the first time in months. "One dinner," she agreed. "But I picked the place." She picked a diner 3 blocks from the hospital. Nothing fancy, just good food and comfortable booths. Derek seemed surprised by the choice but did not complain. He ordered a burger and she ordered breakfast for dinner because pancakes made her happy and she so rarely let herself have things that made her happy. They talked for 3 hours. Derek told her about his family's real estate business. His father Harold had started Morrison Real Estate 30 years ago and built it into one of the biggest development companies in the city. Derek was being groomed to take over someday, though he admitted he was not sure that was what he wanted. "What do you want?" Nicole asked. Derek thought about it. "Someone to share my life with, I think. Someone real. Not the society girls my mother keeps trying to set me up with. They're all so fake, you know? They only care about money and status. And what do you think I care about?" He smiled at her across the table. "I think you care about helping people. I watched you tonight. The way you talked to that little kid who was scared. The way you held that old woman's hand while she waited for test results. You actually see people. Not many people do that anymore." Nicole felt her cheeks grow warm. She was not used to compliments. She was not used to being seen. "You do not know anything about me," she said quietly. "Then let me learn. Let me take you to dinner again tomorrow." She said yes. And the day after that she said yes again. Within a month they were dating exclusively. Within 6 months, Derek had given her a key to his apartment and told her he loved her. Nicole had never been loved before. Not really. The foster families had kept her fed and sheltered, but love was never part of the arrangement. She had accepted long ago that some people simply were not meant to be loved, that she was one of those people, that she would build her life alone and that would have to be enough. But Derek made her believe something different. He made her believe she deserved more. The first time she met his family, she should have known things would not be easy. Patricia Morrison looked at Nicole like she was something unpleasant stuck to the bottom of her shoe. She asked pointed questions about Nicole's background, her education, her family. When Nicole admitted she had been raised in foster care, Patricia's lips pressed together in a thin line of disapproval. "How unfortunate," Patricia said. "And your biological parents? Surely you have looked for them." "I tried," Nicole admitted. The records are sealed. My birth mother left me at a fire station when I was 3 days old. There was no father listed. I do not even know my real last name. So you could be anyone. From anywhere. Patricia's eyes narrowed. How do we know you are not just after Derek's money? Mother, Derek said sharply. That is enough. It is a fair question. This girl appears out of nowhere, no family, no history. And suddenly she is dating my son? Do not tell me that is not suspicious. I did not know Derek had money when I met him, Nicole said quietly. He came to my emergency room with a scratch on his arm. I thought he was just another patient. But now you know. Patricia leaned forward. Now you know exactly what Derek stands to inherit. What our family is worth. And you expect me to believe that does not factor into your feelings for him? I love your son, Nicole said. Not his money. I have my own job, my own apartment, my own life. I'm not looking for someone to take care of me. I just want someone to share my life with. Patricia laughed. It was not a kind sound. Oh, how sweet. How naive. Derek, please tell me you are not actually considering a future with this person. I am not just considering it, Derek said. He reached across the table and took Nicole's hand. I am planning on it. Harold Morrison, who had been silent throughout the dinner, finally spoke up. Son, your mother has a point. This is a major decision. Perhaps you should take more time to consider it. I have considered it, Derek said. I love Nicole. I'm going to marry her. You can either accept that or you can see a lot less of me. Your choice. The dinner ended shortly after that. In the car, Derek apologized for his parents' behavior. They are protective, he said. They will come around once they get to know you. But they never did come around. Not really. Derek proposed 6 months later. It was a simple proposal, just the two of them in the diner where they had their first date. He got down on one knee and pulled out a ring that was much bigger than anything Nicole would have chosen for herself. I know my family is difficult, he said. I know this life is not what you imagined. But I love you, Nicole. I want to build a future with you. I want to have children with you. I want to grow old with you. Please say yes. She said yes with tears streaming down her face. Happy tears. The first happy tears she could remember crying. The wedding was small and tense. Patricia refused to help with any of the planning and showed up in a black dress like she was attending a funeral. Harold walked around looking uncomfortable. Only a handful of people came, most of them from the hospital where Nicole worked. But Nicole did not care about any of that. She was marrying the man she loved. She was starting a family. She was finally going to belong somewhere. On their wedding night, Patricia pulled her aside. Enjoy this while it lasts, Patricia said. Her voice was soft, meant only for Nicole's ears. Derek will get tired of you eventually. He always gets tired of his toys. And when he does, you will be right back where you started. Alone. With nothing. Nicole wanted to argue. Wanted to defend herself, her marriage, her husband. But something in Patricia's eyes told her that arguing would be pointless. This woman had already made up her mind about Nicole. Nothing would change that. So Nicole just smiled and walked away. She told herself Patricia was wrong. She told herself Derek loved her. She told herself everything would be fine. For 2 years she almost believed it. The first year of marriage was not what Nicole had imagined, but she tried to make the best of it. Derek wanted her to move into his family's guest house. It was beautiful, a 2-bedroom cottage on the Morrison estate, with a garden out back and a view of the main house through the trees. Nicole understood why Derek thought it was a good idea. The rent was free, it kept them close to his parents, and it meant he could continue working at the family business without a long commute. But living on the Morrison property meant living under Patricia's constant scrutiny. Patricia dropped by unannounced almost every day. She criticized the way Nicole kept house, the meals she cooked, the clothes she wore. Nothing was ever good enough. The curtains were too plain. The furniture was arranged wrong. Nicole's nursing scrubs were an embarrassment to be seen in public. You represent this family now, Patricia would say. You need to look the part. Nicole tried. She bought nicer clothes with money she did not really have. She learned to cook the recipes Patricia demanded. She smiled and nodded and kept her opinions to herself because keeping the peace seemed more important than being right. Derek was gone most of the time. He worked long hours at Morrison Real Estate, often not coming home until after midnight. Nicole tried not to mind. She worked long hours too. She understood the pressure of building a career. But there were nights when she sat alone in the guest house, eating dinner by herself, and wondered if this was really what marriage was supposed to feel like. You need to give him space, Simone told her at work one night. They were on break, sharing a bag of chips in the break room. Men are like that. They get absorbed in their work. It does not mean he does not love you. I know he loves me, Nicole said. But even as she said it, she was not entirely sure. The distance between them grew slowly, so slowly that Nicole did not notice it at first. Derek started sleeping in the guest room because he did not want to wake her when he came home late. He stopped kissing her goodbye in the morning. He started making excuses to skip dinner, claiming he had eaten at the office. Nicole tried to talk to him about it. I feel like we never see each other anymore, she said one Sunday morning when he was actually home. Can we maybe schedule a date night? Just the two of us. Derek barely looked up from his phone. I am swamped at work right now. The company is going through some stuff. Maybe next month. Next month never came. There was always another excuse, another crisis, another reason why he could not spare a few hours for his wife. Then the pregnancy test came back positive. Nicole found out on a Tuesday morning. She had been feeling tired and nauseous for weeks, but she had blamed it on her work schedule. It was Simone who finally suggested she take a test. Just to rule it out, Simone said. But it was not ruled out. 2 pink lines appeared on the stick within seconds. Nicole sat on the bathroom floor of the hospital and cried. Not from sadness. From hope. Maybe this was what their marriage needed. Maybe a baby would bring them closer together. Maybe Derek would finally have a reason to come home at night. She waited to tell him until she had confirmation from a doctor. She wanted to make it special. She bought a onesie that said, Daddy's Little Helper, and wrapped it in a box. She made Derek's favorite dinner and set the table with candles. Derek came home 3 hours late. He walked in, saw the candles and sighed. I told you I would be working late, he said. You should not have waited. I wanted tonight to be special. Nicole handed him the box. Open it. He opened it with barely concealed impatience. When he saw the onesie, his face went through several emotions. Surprise. Confusion. And then something that looked almost like fear. You are pregnant? I know we talked about waiting, Nicole said quickly. But I am already 6 weeks along. The doctor says everything looks healthy. Derek, we are going to be parents. She expected him to smile. To hug her. To cry happy tears like she had. Instead, he set the onesie down on the table and ran his hands through his hair. This is not good timing, he said. The company is struggling. My parents are on my back about performance reviews. I cannot add a baby to all of this stress. Nicole felt something cold settle in her chest. Derek, this is our baby. Our family. Is that not worth more than work stress? You do not understand the pressure I am under. He started pacing. You have never run a business. You do not know what it is like to have everyone depending on you. I am your wife, Nicole said quietly. I depend on you. And now our child will too. Derek stopped pacing. He looked at her with an expression she had never seen before. There was something dark in his eyes. Something calculating. Fine, he said finally. We will figure it out. He did not say congratulations. He did not touch her stomach or ask about the doctor's appointment or suggest names for the baby. He just grabbed his coat and said he needed to go back to the office. That night, lying alone in bed, Nicole felt the first real crack in her belief that her marriage would be okay. At her 8-week ultrasound, the doctor paused for a long moment while looking at the screen. Mrs. Morrison, he said slowly, I need to tell you something. You are not carrying one baby. Nicole's heart stopped. What? You are carrying 3. Triplets. Congratulations. The room started to spin. Triplets. 3 babies at once. 3 times the diapers. 3 times the feedings. 3 times the love. Nicole burst into tears. Happy tears, she told herself. These had to be happy tears. She drove straight to Derek's office to tell him the news. She pictured the look on his face when he found out. Surely this would finally make him excited. Surely triplets were too amazing to be grumpy about. But when she reached his office door, she heard voices inside. Derek's voice and a woman's voice she did not recognize. She is so boring, the woman was saying with a laugh. I cannot believe you actually married her. It was a mistake, Derek said. Nicole froze with her hand on the doorknob. My mother was right about her from the beginning. She was supposed to be a temporary thing, but then she got attached and I felt bad for her. You know how it is with these orphan types. They latch on to anyone who shows them attention. So leave her, the woman said. You promised you would leave her. And I will. After I figure out the money situation. If I divorce her now, she might try to get half of everything. I need to protect my assets first. How long is that going to take? I do not know. A few months. Maybe a year. Be patient, baby. I promise it will be worth the wait. Nicole heard the sound of kissing. She stepped back from the door, her hand falling away from the knob. Her husband was having an affair. Her husband wanted to leave her. Everything she thought she knew about her marriage was a lie. She turned and walked back to her car. She did not cry. She did not scream. She felt completely numb. When Derek came home that night, Nicole pretended she had not heard anything. She was not sure why. Maybe she was in denial. Maybe she was scared. Maybe she wanted to believe that if she ignored it long enough, it would go away. I had an ultrasound today, she said. We are having triplets. Derek's face went pale. Triplets? That is not possible. The doctor showed me on the screen. 3 heartbeats. 3 babies. She tried to smile. Is that not amazing? Derek did not answer. He walked into the kitchen, poured himself a drink, and sat down at the table with his head in his hands. This cannot be happening, he muttered. Nicole sat down across from him. Derek, I know things have been hard between us. But maybe this is a sign. Maybe these babies are our chance to start over. To be a real family. He looked up at her with empty eyes. Sure, Nicole. Whatever you say. That was the moment she knew her marriage was over. He had not even tried to hide his disappointment. He had not even pretended to be happy. But she was carrying 3 babies. His babies. She could not just walk away. She had nowhere to go and no one to help her. She had to try to make this work for their sake. The next 7 months were the loneliest of her life. The pregnancy was difficult from the start. Carrying triplets at 28 years old was considered high risk. Nicole had to reduce her hours at the hospital. She had to see the doctor twice a week. She had morning sickness that lasted all day and swollen ankles that made it hard to walk. Derek was never there for any of it. He came to the first ultrasound and looked bored the entire time. He missed the second one completely. By the third, Nicole stopped asking if he wanted to come. He is busy with work, she told Simone. The company is really struggling. But she noticed things. Lipstick on his collar when he came home late. The smell of perfume that was not hers. Texts that made him smile in a way he never smiled at her. She never confronted him about it. What would be the point? He had already made clear he did not want this marriage, did not want these babies. Confronting him would only make things worse. Patricia visited frequently, always with criticism. You are gaining too much weight, she said at one visit. You are going to be enormous by the time you deliver. The doctor says I am healthy, Nicole replied. Doctors do not know everything. Patricia wrinkled her nose. And you need to do something about this house. It looks like a tornado went through it. Nicole looked around the small guest house. Yes, there were dishes in the sink and laundry on the chair. She was pregnant with triplets and exhausted all the time. Keeping a spotless house was not her top priority. I will clean up later, she said. You should hire someone. A proper housekeeper. Derek can afford it. But Nicole knew Derek could not afford it. She had seen the bank statements. The account they shared was steadily draining, and she was not sure where the money was going. She suspected she knew, but she could not prove it. At her 30-week appointment, the doctor put her on bed rest. The babies are putting too much strain on your body, he said. You need to stay off your feet as much as possible. No work, no housework, no stress. Nicole laughed at that. No stress. Right. She called her supervisor at the hospital and explained the situation. They were understanding. They promised to hold her position until she could return after maternity leave. It was a small relief in a sea of worry. Being on bed rest meant she was home all day with nothing to do but think. She thought about her marriage. She thought about the babies growing inside her. She thought about the future she had imagined and the very different future she was actually heading toward. One afternoon, while Derek was at work, she decided to look through his home office. She told herself she was just organizing. Just tidying up while she was stuck at home with nothing to do. But really she was looking for evidence. Evidence of the affair. Evidence that would confirm what she already knew in her heart. She found it in the second drawer of his desk. Credit card statements with charges for expensive restaurants, hotel rooms, jewelry. All places Derek had never taken her. All things Derek had never bought for her. And then, tucked behind the statements, a stack of photographs. Derek and a woman she did not recognize. The same woman from the office based on the voice. A pretty redhead with long nails and a confident smile. In one photo they were kissing on a beach. In another, the woman was wearing a bracelet that Nicole recognized. She had seen it in the jewelry store last Christmas. She had mentioned to Derek how beautiful it was. He had said it was too expensive. Apparently it was not too expensive for his girlfriend. Nicole put the photographs back exactly where she found them. She closed the drawer. She walked to the bedroom, lay down on the bed, and placed her hands on her swollen stomach. 3 heartbeats fluttered against her palms. 3 little lives that had no idea the chaos they were being born into. "I will figure this out," she whispered to them. "I do not know how yet, but I will keep you safe. I promise." The next few weeks passed in a blur of doctor's appointments and loneliness. Derek stopped coming home most nights. He said he was staying at the office, but she knew he was probably with the woman in the photographs. Brenda. She had found the name on one of the credit card receipts. Dinner with B. Patricia continued her visits, growing more hostile as Nicole's due date approached. "You are not going to be able to handle 3 babies, Patricia said one day. "You should consider adoption. At least for 1 or 2 of them." Nicole stared at her. "You want me to give away my children? They are Derek's children too. And Derek is not equipped to raise triplets. Neither are you. It would be better for everyone if you were realistic about your limitations." "These are my babies," Nicole said. Her voice shook with anger. "I am not giving any of them away. Suit yourself." Patricia shrugged. "But do not come crying to us when you cannot cope." At 37 weeks, Nicole went into labor. It happened fast. One minute she was watching television, trying to ignore the constant ache in her back. The next minute, there was a gush of fluid and the most intense pain she had ever felt. She called Derek. He did not answer. She called Patricia. No answer. She called the main house line. Harold picked up on the 3rd ring. "My water broke," Nicole gasped. "I need to get to the hospital." "Derek is not here," Harold said. "He is at a meeting. Can you drive me? Please. I am in labor." There was a long pause. "I will send a car." Not, "I will come help you." Not, "Are you okay?" Just, "I will send a car." 30 minutes later, a taxi pulled up to the guest house. Nicole climbed in by herself, alone and terrified, and gave the driver the hospital address. The delivery was long and painful. 18 hours of labor with no one holding her hand. The nurses were kind, but they had other patients to attend to. Simone came when her shift allowed, but she could not stay the whole time. Derek finally showed up when the 3rd baby was being born. He walked into the delivery room just as Nicole was pushing for the last time, sweat-soaked and exhausted. He stood in the corner with his arms crossed, looking at his phone. "It is a girl," the doctor announced. "You have 2 boys and a girl. Congratulations." Nicole reached for her babies. All 3 of them were crying, healthy, perfect. Tears streamed down her face as she held them for the first time. "Derek," she called out. "Come see them. Come see your children." He walked over slowly. He glanced down at the babies in her arms without any expression on his face. "They are small," he said. "They are beautiful." Nicole looked up at him, desperate for some sign of love, some indication that this moment meant something to him. "Derek, we made these. Together. 3 perfect babies." He nodded. "I need to make a phone call. I will be back." He walked out of the delivery room. He did not come back for 6 hours. When he finally returned, he had his mother with him. Patricia looked at the babies like they were a burden, an inconvenience, a problem to be solved. "The doctor says you can be discharged in 5 days, Patricia said. "We have arranged for you to come home then." "Thank you," Nicole said, even though it felt strange to thank someone for allowing her to return to her own home. "You will need to hire help with these children," Patricia continued. "You cannot expect Derek to sacrifice his career for diaper changes and midnight feedings." "I was not expecting that," Nicole said quietly. She had stopped expecting anything from Derek a long time ago. The next 5 days were spent bonding with her babies. Elijah, the firstborn, was loud and demanding, always hungry. Isaiah, the second, was calm and observant, with eyes that seemed too wise for a newborn. And Zoe, the smallest, was delicate and sweet, content to sleep as long as someone was holding her. Nicole named them without Derek's input. He never asked about names, never suggested any, never seemed to care. On the 5th day, Patricia came to pick her up. And everything changed. The drive home should have taken 20 minutes. It took 45 because Patricia insisted on stopping for coffee. "I need caffeine if I am going to deal with those crying babies," she said. Nicole sat in the back seat with her 3 children, too tired to argue. She had barely slept in 5 days. Her body was still recovering from labor. All she wanted was to get home, lie down in her own bed and sleep for a week. When they finally pulled up to the main house instead of the guest house, Nicole frowned. "Why are we stopping here?" "Derek is waiting for you inside." Patricia's voice was flat. There is something he needs to discuss with you. A cold feeling settled in Nicole's stomach. She gathered her babies and walked slowly up the steps to the Morrison family home. Derek was waiting in the living room. He was not alone. Brenda was sitting on the couch, legs crossed, completely at ease. She was wearing Nicole's silk robe, the one that had gone missing months ago. She was drinking coffee from Nicole's favorite mug. Derek. Nicole's voice was barely a whisper. What is going on? He stood up. He was not wearing his wedding ring. I want a divorce, he said. Brenda and I are getting married. The words hit Nicole like a physical blow. She had known this was coming. She had heard him talking about it months ago in his office. But somehow hearing it now, 5 days after giving birth to his children, felt like being stabbed in the heart. What about the babies? She managed to say. What about them? Derek shrugged. They are your problem, not mine. I never wanted kids in the first place. You knew that. You got pregnant anyway to trap me. I did not trap you. Nicole's voice rose. We tried for 2 years. You cried when we found out about the triplets. I cried because I knew my life was over. Derek's face was hard. But Brenda showed me it did not have to be. I can walk away from this. From you. From them. Brenda stood up and walked over to stand beside Derek. She slipped her hand into his and smiled at Nicole. You should have seen the signs earlier, Brenda said. He was never really yours. He was just passing time until something better came along. Nicole looked at Derek. Really looked at him, maybe for the first time in years. This was the man she had loved. The man she had married. The man she had given everything to. And he was looking at her like she was nothing. I am going to call a lawyer, Nicole said. Her voice was shaking but determined. You cannot do this. You cannot abandon your children. I can do whatever I want. Derek pulled out a manila envelope and held it out to her. These are divorce papers. Sign them. You get nothing. The house is in my name. The cars are in my name. The accounts have been emptied. Emptied? Nicole felt sick. There was $20,000 in our joint account. And I used it to buy Brenda's engagement ring. Derek smiled. It was an ugly smile. Consider it a severance package for the 2 years I wasted on you. Patricia stepped forward then. She had been watching from the doorway, arms crossed, satisfaction written all over her face. You have until midnight to sign those papers and get out of the guest house, Patricia said. Or we will call the police and have you removed for trespassing. Trespassing? Nicole stared at her. I am his wife. I live there. Your name is not on any of the property documents, Harold said, entering from the kitchen. Legally you are just a guest. And we are asking you to leave. Nicole looked around the room. For people staring at her with varying degrees of hostility and contempt. 3 babies in her arms who had no idea their world was falling apart. She had no money. No transportation. No family. No friends except Simone. No place to go. Please, she whispered. At least let me stay until I can find somewhere to live. The babies need a roof over their heads. They are only 5 days old. Should have thought of that before you tried to trap my son with them, Patricia said. Sign the papers. Nicole looked at Derek one last time. Did any of it mean anything? Did you ever love me at all? He did not answer. He just looked at his phone, already bored with the conversation. Nicole took the pen from Patricia's outstretched hand. She signed the papers without reading them. It did not matter what they said. She had already lost everything that mattered. I need to pack some things, she said. The baby's supplies. Some clothes. 15 minutes, Patricia said. And leave the jewelry. Derek paid for all of it. Nicole walked to the guest house on numb legs. She packed what she could carry. Formula. Diapers. A few onesies. Her wallet. Her phone. She left behind the jewelry, the nice clothes, the wedding photo on the nightstand. When she walked back past the main house, she could see Derek and Brenda through the window. They were kissing. At the front door, Patricia was waiting to make sure she left. The ring too, Patricia said, gesturing to Nicole's wedding band. Nicole slid it off her finger and placed it in Patricia's palm. Her hand felt empty without it. I hope it was worth it, Nicole said quietly. Destroying your son's soul to get rid of me. His soul is just fine, Patricia said. He is finally free of you. That is all I ever wanted. The door closed. The lock turned. And Nicole was alone in the cold December night with 3 newborn babies and nowhere to go. She sat down on the porch steps because her legs would not carry her any farther. The babies were crying. She was crying. The temperature was dropping by the minute. This was not how her story was supposed to end. But as Nicole sat there in the freezing dark, Something began to shift inside her. The despair started to harden into something else. Something stronger. She had survived the foster system. She had put herself through college. She had built a career from nothing. She had done hard things before. This was just one more hard thing. She pulled out her phone with numb fingers and called the one person who might help. Simone answered on the second ring, and within 30 minutes she was there. Nicole climbed into Simone's car with her 3 babies and drove away from the Morrison estate without looking back. She did not know it yet, but this was not the end of her story. It was just the beginning. The first week at Simone's apartment was a blur of survival. Simone had a small 2-bedroom place in the city. She gave Nicole and the babies her bedroom and slept on the couch without a single complaint. "You are going to get through this," Simone said every morning, handing Nicole a cup of tea. "You are the strongest person I know." Nicole did not feel strong. She felt broken. But she got up every day, fed her babies, changed their diapers, and tried not to think about what she had lost. The hospital granted her an extended leave of absence. Her supervisor was horrified when she heard what happened. "That family is evil," the supervisor said. "Take whatever time you need. Your job will be here when you are ready." Nicole used the time to research her options. She could not afford a lawyer for a proper divorce settlement. She had signed papers that waived her rights to everything. She had no claim on the house, the cars, the money. But she was still Derek's legal wife, at least for a little while longer. The divorce was not final yet. And she had 3 children who were legally his, whether he wanted them or not. She started making calls. Legal aid clinics. Women's shelters. Support groups for single mothers. Everyone was sympathetic, but resources were limited. The waiting lists were long. On the 12th day a letter arrived. It was addressed to Nicole Hampton, which was strange. She had been using Morrison for years. The return address was a law office downtown, Banks and Associates. "Were you expecting something from a lawyer?" Simone asked, handing over the envelope. "No." Nicole opened it with trembling hands. "Dear Miss Hampton, my name is Theodore Banks, and I represent a client who has been searching for you for many years. This matter concerns your biological family and a substantial inheritance that you may be entitled to. I apologize for the unusual nature of this correspondence. I have been trying to locate you for some time but was only recently able to connect your married name with your birth records. If you are interested in learning more, please contact my office at your earliest convenience. I assure you this is a legitimate matter and could have life-changing implications for you. Sincerely, Theodore Banks Yescu." Nicole read the letter 3 times. It had to be a scam. There was no substantial inheritance. She was an orphan, abandoned at a fire station, nobody from nowhere. But the letterhead looked official. The law firm was real. She Googled it. Banks and Associates was a respected firm downtown that specialized in estate law. "What is it?" Simone asked, seeing the confusion on Nicole's face. "I do not know." Nicole handed over the letter. "Someone says they are looking for me. Something about biological family and inheritance." Simone read the letter and whistled. "Nicole, this could be real. What if you have family out there? What if someone has been looking for you? I have been abandoned my whole life." Nicole shook her head. "Why would someone start looking now? There is only one way to find out." Nicole waited 3 days before calling. She was scared. Scared it was a scam. Scared it was real. Scared of getting her hopes up only to have them crushed again. But on the 3rd day, when she was up at 3 a.m. feeding the triplets, she thought about what she had to lose. Nothing. The answer was nothing. She had already lost everything. What was one more disappointment? She called the next morning. "Banks and Associates, how may I direct your call? My name is Nicole Hampton. I received a letter from Theodore Banks asking me to contact him." There was a pause. "One moment, Miss Hampton." 30 seconds later, a man's voice came on the line. "Miss Hampton, this is Theodore Banks. Thank you for calling. I was beginning to think my letter had not reached you." "It reached me," Nicole said. "I just was not sure if it was real." "I understand. This must be confusing for you. Would you be willing to come to my office? There is someone here who very much wants to meet you." "Someone who?" Another pause. "Your father, Miss Hampton. Your biological father." Nicole's heart stopped. "That is not possible. I was abandoned. There was no father listed on my records." "There is much you do not know about your birth circumstances," Theodore said gently. "Please come to my office. Everything will be explained." Nicole made an appointment for the following afternoon. Simone offered to watch the babies. And the next day, Nicole took a bus downtown to a high-rise office building she had walked past 100 times without ever going inside. The office of Banks & Associates was on the 32nd floor. The receptionist greeted her by name and led her to a conference room with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city. Theodore Banks was a silver-haired man in an expensive suit. He shook her hand warmly and gestured for her to sit. "Thank you for coming," he said. "I know this must be overwhelming. That is one word for it." Nicole sat down carefully. "You said my father is here?" "He is. But first, let me explain how we got to this point." Theodore opened a folder on the table. Inside were documents, photographs, medical records. 28 years ago, a woman named Grace Mitchell gave birth to a daughter at Philadelphia General Hospital. The baby was perfectly healthy. But the mother died from complications during delivery. Nicole's throat tightened. "My mother died giving birth to me?" "I am sorry, yes." Theodore's voice was gentle. Grace was not married, but she was in a relationship with a man named Raymond Carter. They had been together for 2 years and were planning to marry. But Grace's family did not approve of Raymond. Why not? Because Raymond was ambitious. He had started a small technology company and was working around the clock to make it succeed. Grace's family thought he was irresponsible, unable to provide a stable life. When Grace died, her older sister Evelyn took matters into her own hands. Theodore pulled out a document. "Evelyn had you placed for adoption without Raymond's knowledge." She told him the baby had died along with the mother. Raymond was devastated. He threw himself into his work. And his company eventually became one of the largest technology firms in the country. Nicole stared at the document. It was her original birth certificate, the one with her parents' names listed. Grace Mitchell. Raymond Carter. Raymond discovered the truth 3 years ago when Evelyn passed away. She left a confession in her will, along with documents that proved you were alive. Raymond hired me immediately to find you. But the adoption records were sealed and it took time to trace you. 3 years, Nicole whispered. He has been looking for 3 years? Every day. Theodore stood up. "Miss Hampton, if you are ready, there is someone here who has waited a very long time to meet you." He opened the door. And Nicole saw her father for the first time. Raymond Carter was a tall man in his 60s with kind eyes and silver temples. He was wearing a simple blue suit. His hands were shaking. "Nicole?" His voice cracked on her name. She stood up. Her legs were trembling. "You really are my father?" "I am." Tears were streaming down his face. "I am so sorry it took this long to find you. I'm so sorry for everything you went through. I did not know. I did not know you existed." Something broke inside Nicole. All the walls she had built, all the defenses she had constructed to survive a lifetime of abandonment. They all came crashing down. She ran to her father's arms. And for the first time in her 28 years, she felt what it was like to be held by someone who loved her unconditionally. "I have you now," Raymond whispered into her hair. "You are never going to be alone again. I promise you that." Nicole believed him. The next few hours changed everything Nicole thought she knew about herself. Raymond Carter was not just successful. He was one of the wealthiest men in America. Carter Industries had started as a small tech startup in a garage. Over the past 3 decades, it had grown into a massive conglomerate worth over $50 billion. Raymond owned real estate across the country, technology patents that powered most smartphones, and investments in dozens of other companies. And Nicole was his only child. His only heir. "I never married after Grace," Raymond explained. They were sitting in his office now, a penthouse suite in one of his own buildings. "I could not. She was the love of my life. When I thought I lost both of you, something inside me died." Nicole listened to the story of her parents' romance. How they met at a coffee shop when Raymond was a struggling entrepreneur and Grace was a schoolteacher. How they fell in love instantly. How Grace's wealthy family disapproved of Raymond because he did not have money or status. "Evelyn always hated me," Raymond said. "She thought Grace was making a mistake. When Grace died, Evelyn saw her chance to erase me from the picture entirely." "Why would she do that?" Nicole asked. "Why would she give away her own niece?" "She told herself she was protecting you, giving you a better life with a stable family. But mostly I think she wanted to punish me. She blamed me for Grace's death. If I had not gotten Grace pregnant, she would still be alive. That is how Evelyn saw it." "Did she ever check on me? To see if I was okay?" Raymond's jaw tightened. "No. She placed you in the foster system and walked away. She never looked back. It was not until she was dying that her guilt caught up with her." Nicole thought about her childhood. The endless cycle of foster homes. the loneliness, the feeling that no one wanted her. All of it could have been avoided if Evelyn had simply told the truth. Where is Evelyn's family now? Nicole asked. Gone. Evelyn never married, never had children. The Mitchell family fortune died with her. Raymond reached across the table and took Nicole's hand. But you are here now. And I want to make up for every lost year. I do not need your money, Nicole said quickly. I just needed to know where I came from. I know you do not need it, Raymond smiled. You have proven you can survive anything. You put yourself through nursing school. You built a career. You have more strength and resilience than most people born into privilege will ever have. But you are my daughter, Nicole. Everything I have built, I built for someone to inherit. I built it for you even when I did not know you existed. He pulled out a folder of documents. These are legal papers recognizing you as my daughter and sole heir. When you are ready, I want to train you to take over Carter Industries. Not because you need my money, but because you have earned it with every struggle you have overcome. Nicole stared at the documents. Her mind was spinning. 24 hours ago, she had been sleeping on her friend's couch, wondering how she would afford formula for her babies. Now she was sitting in a penthouse office, being told she was heir to a billion-dollar empire. There is something you should know, she said slowly. I have children. 3 of them. Triplets. They are only 3 weeks old. Raymond's face lit up. I have grandchildren? Yes. But their father, my husband, he abandoned us. He threw us out of our home in the middle of the night. I signed divorce papers. I have nothing. Raymond's expression darkened. Tell me everything. So Nicole did. She told him about Derek, about the Morrison family, about the affair with Brenda. She told him about being locked out in the freezing cold with newborn babies. She told him about the empty bank account, the stolen savings, the jewelry she was forced to leave behind. By the time she finished, Raymond's hands were clenched into fists. This man will pay for what he did to you, Raymond said quietly. I promise you that. I do not want revenge, Nicole said. But even as she said it, she was not sure it was true. Maybe not right now, Raymond said. But someday you might. And when that day comes, I will help you destroy him. Nicole moved into one of Raymond's properties that same week. It was a beautiful townhouse in the nicest part of the city, fully furnished and staffed with people who could help her care for the triplets. She protested at first. It was too much. She did not deserve this. But Raymond insisted. You deserve everything, he said. Let me take care of you for once. Let me be your father. The next few months were a whirlwind of change. Nicole learned about Carter Industries. She attended meetings with Raymond, met with executives, studied business reports. She had always been smart, always a quick learner, but this was a whole new world. She also focused on being a mother. The triplets were thriving. Elijah was loud and curious, always grabbing for things. Isaiah was calm and thoughtful, content to watch the world. Zoe was sweet and gentle, always reaching for her mother's hand. Nicole hired a nanny to help during the day, but she insisted on doing the nighttime feedings herself. Those quiet hours in the dark, holding her babies, were the most precious moments of her life. She started to heal. Not from the wounds of her marriage, not entirely. Those scars would take years to fade. But from the wounds of her childhood. The abandonment. The loneliness. The belief that she was unworthy of love. For the first time in her life, Nicole felt like she belonged somewhere. And she started to think about what she wanted her future to look like. Not just survival. Not just getting by. But building something meaningful. Something that would make a difference. She talked to Raymond about it one evening over dinner. I want to start a foundation, she said. For single mothers. Women who have been abandoned like I was. I want to help them get back on their feet. Raymond smiled. I think that is a wonderful idea. And I want to do it myself. Not just write checks but actually build something. Use my nursing background to set up healthcare services. Partner with shelters and legal aid clinics. Make a real difference. You will need resources for that, Raymond said. I know. And I know I have access to your money now. But I want to earn it. I want to prove I am more than just your heir. Raymond reached across the table and squeezed her hand. Nicole, you have already proven that 1,000 times over. But if earning it is important to you, then we will find a way to make that happen. And that was when Nicole started planning her rise. Not for revenge. Not at first. But the Morrison family was about to learn a very important lesson. The woman they threw out like garbage was about to become the most powerful person in the city. 1 year later, Nicole Hampton Carter was unrecognizable. She sat in her corner office at Carter Industries, looking out at the Philadelphia skyline through floor-to-ceiling windows. Her triplets photos were framed on her desk. Elijah, Isaiah, and Zoe, now 14 months old, healthy and happy and loved. The past year had transformed her in every way possible. She had thrown herself into learning the business. She had started at the bottom, shadowing executives, reading every report, attending every meeting. Raymond had offered to fast-track her to the top, but Nicole refused. She wanted to understand every aspect of the company. She wanted to earn her place. Her foundation was thriving too. The Carter Foundation for Single Mothers had opened 3 resource centers in the city. They provided childcare, job training, legal assistance, and healthcare for women in crisis. Every week, Nicole visited the centers personally. She knew the names of the women they helped. She knew their stories, because she had been one of them, because she remembered what it felt like to have nothing. Today, she was reviewing a new acquisition report when Theodore Banks knocked on her door. "You wanted to see me?" he asked. "Yes. Come in." Close the door. Theodore sat down across from her. He had become more than just a lawyer to Nicole over the past year. He was an advisor, a confidant, almost like a second father. "I want you to look into something for me," Nicole said. "Morrison Real Estate." Theodore raised an eyebrow. "Derek Morrison's family company?" "Yes." Nicole kept her voice neutral. "I have heard rumors they are struggling. I want to know how bad it is." Theodore studied her for a moment. "Are you sure you want to go down this road?" "I am not planning anything." Nicole met his eyes. "I just want to know what is happening with them. Call it curiosity." "All right." Theodore pulled out his tablet and made a note. "I will have a full report for you by the end of the week." The report arrived 4 days later. Nicole read it alone in her office, the door locked, the lights dimmed. Morrison Real Estate was drowning. The company had been struggling for years, but things had gotten much worse since Nicole left. Harold Morrison had made several bad investments. Derek had mismanaged multiple projects. The company was millions of dollars in debt and losing clients fast. They were looking for a buyer. They were desperate. Nicole read the report twice. Then she called Raymond. "I need to talk to you about something," she said. "Can you come to my office?" 20 minutes later, Raymond was sitting across from her, reading the same report. "You want to buy them out," he said when he finished. It was not a question. "Yes." Nicole nodded slowly. Carter Industries has been expanding into real estate for the past 2 years. Morrison Real Estate has properties and contracts that would fit perfectly into our portfolio. "That is true." Raymond set down the report. "But this is not just business for you, is it?" Nicole was silent for a long moment. "They threw me out into the freezing cold with 3 newborn babies," she finally said. "They took everything I had. They told me I was nothing. They treated me like garbage. I remember. I'm not doing this for revenge." Nicole chose her words carefully. "But if I can acquire their company, save the jobs of the innocent employees, and show the Morrison family exactly what I have become, is that so wrong?" Raymond smiled slowly. It was not a kind smile. It was the smile of a man who had built an empire by crushing his competition. "It is not wrong at all," he said. "In fact, I think it is perfect." The acquisition moved fast. Nicole put together a team of the best negotiators at Carter Industries. They approached Morrison Real Estate with a buyout offer that was just high enough to be tempting but low enough to be humiliating. The Morrisons resisted at first. Harold tried to find other buyers. Derek claimed they had investors lined up. Patricia insisted they would never sell to some corporate vulture. But there were no other buyers. The investors did not exist. And as the weeks passed, the Morrison situation grew more desperate. Nicole watched it all from her office. She received daily reports on the negotiations. She saw the Morrisons' counteroffers grow weaker and weaker. She saw their desperation increase. She felt nothing. Maybe that should have bothered her. Maybe she should have felt guilty for taking pleasure in their downfall. But every time she started to feel bad, she remembered that night. The locked door. The freezing cold. The sound of her babies crying. The Morrisons had shown her no mercy. She would show them none. 3 months after the acquisition began, the deal was done. Carter Industries now owned Morrison Real Estate. All of the properties, all of the contracts, all of the assets. The Morrison family name was removed from everything. Harold and Patricia lost their home when they could not make the mortgage payments. Derek was left with nothing but his expensive clothes and his engagement ring for Brenda. Nicole waited 2 weeks before making her move. Then she sent Derek a letter. It was simple, professional, devastating. "Dear Derek, I hope this letter finds you well. I wanted to inform you personally that Carter Industries has acquired Morrison Real Estate. As part of the transition, I will be reviewing all employee records and contracts. I also wanted to let you know that I am doing well. My children are healthy and happy. I've found my place in the world. If you would like to discuss any matters related to the acquisition, please contact my office to schedule an appointment. Sincerely, Nicole Hampton Carter, Executive Vice President, Carter Industries' daughter and sole heir of Raymond Carter. She did not sign it, your ex-wife. She did not need to. The message was clear. The woman Derek had thrown away was now the most powerful person he would ever know. And she was coming for everything. Derek showed up at her office 3 days after receiving the letter. Nicole knew he would. She had prepared for this moment, planned it down to the smallest detail. She was wearing her best suit, a deep burgundy that made her look powerful and sophisticated. Her hair was professionally styled. Her makeup was flawless. She looked nothing like the broken woman he had thrown out in the cold. Her assistant buzzed her. Miss Carter, there is a Derek Morrison here to see you. He does not have an appointment. Nicole smiled. Send him in. The door opened. Derek walked in. He had changed over the past year and not for the better. He looked tired, stressed, defeated. His suit was rumpled and there were dark circles under his eyes. The confident, cruel man who had ended their marriage was gone. In his place was someone who had finally learned what it felt like to lose everything. Nicole. His voice was hoarse. Or should I call you Miss Carter now? You can call me whatever you like. Nicole gestured to the chair across from her desk. Sit down. Derek sat. His eyes swept over her office, taking in the expensive furniture, the city view, the photos of the triplets on her desk. You found your father, he said. Raymond Carter. I should have known. Should have known what? That you were not who you seemed to be. Derek laughed, but there was no humor in it. All those years, you were the secret heir to a billion-dollar empire. And I treated you like garbage, Nicole finished for him. Yes, you did. I did not know. Would it have mattered? Nicole leaned back in her chair. If you had known I was rich, would you have treated me differently? Derek was silent for a long moment. Then he said, yes, probably. Nicole nodded. That is what I thought. Listen, Nicole. Derek leaned forward, his hands clasped together. I know I made mistakes. I know what I did was wrong. But I was under so much pressure from my family. My mother hated you from the beginning. She was always in my ear, telling me I could do better, telling me you were holding me back. So it is Patricia's fault. Partly, yes. Derek's eyes were desperate. And Brenda, she manipulated me. She made me think she was the answer to all my problems. But she was not. She only wanted my money. When the money ran out, so did she. Nicole felt a flicker of satisfaction at that. Brenda left you? 2 months ago. As soon as Carter Industries took over, as soon as she realized there was no more family fortune to tap into. She packed her bags and disappeared. How unfortunate for you. Derek reached across the desk as if to take her hand. Nicole pulled away. I made a terrible mistake, Derek said. The biggest mistake of my life. I threw away the best thing that ever happened to me. But it is not too late, Nicole. We can still fix this. Fix this. Nicole's voice was ice cold. Fix what exactly? Our marriage. Our family. Derek's voice grew more desperate. You are still my wife legally. The divorce is not final yet. We can stop it. We can start over. I can be the husband you deserve. The father our children need. Nicole stared at him for a long moment. Then she laughed. It was not a cruel laugh or a mocking laugh. It was simply the laugh of someone who had heard something absurd. Derek, let me be very clear with you, she said. There is no us. There is no starting over. You threw me and my newborn babies out into the freezing cold because your mother told you to. You emptied our bank account to buy your mistress a ring. You looked at our children like they were a burden instead of a blessing. I know, and I am sorry. I do not care if you are sorry. Nicole stood up and walked to the window. Sorry does not erase what you did. Sorry does not undo the trauma. Sorry does not give me back the months I spent wondering how I would feed my babies. Please, Nicole. Derek stood up too. I am begging you. Give me another chance. I have nothing left. My family has nothing. We lost our house, our company, everything. You are the only person who can help me. Nicole turned to face him. Her expression was calm, almost serene. That is exactly why you are here, she said. Not because you love me. Not because you miss our children. Because I have money and power and you have nothing. That is not true. It is exactly true. If I were still a homeless nurse sleeping on my friend's couch, you would never have walked through that door. The only reason you want me back is because you found out who my father is." Derek's face flushed. He could not argue with that because they both knew it was the truth. "Here is what is going to happen," Nicole said. "The divorce will be finalized. You will sign away all parental rights to my children. In exchange, I will not pursue you for child support or any other obligations." "Sign away my parental rights?" Derek looked stunned. "Those are my children. You made it very clear you did not want them. You called them a trap. You told me they were my problem, not yours. I was wrong." "Yes, you were. And now you have to live with the consequences of being wrong." Derek's face twisted with anger. "You cannot do this. I will get a lawyer. I will fight you." "With what money?" Nicole smiled. "Your family is broke, Derek. Your company no longer exists. You cannot afford a decent lawyer, let alone one who could go up against Carter Industries' legal team. My mother will find a way. She always does. Your mother is living in a rental apartment and selling her jewelry to pay for groceries." Nicole had done her research. "She is in no position to help anyone, least of all you." Derek slumped back into his chair. The fight seemed to drain out of him. "Why are you doing this?" he asked quietly. "Is it revenge? Is that what this is?" Nicole considered the question carefully. "Maybe," she admitted. "Or maybe I am just protecting my children from a father who never wanted them. Either way, the result is the same." She pressed the intercom on her desk. "Security, please escort Mr. Morrison out of the building." Derek stood up. His face was pale, his hands shaking. "You have become cold, Nicole," he said. "Cold and hard. The woman I married would never have done this. The woman you married does not exist anymore." Nicole met his eyes without flinching. "You killed her the night you threw her out in the cold. I am what is left." Security arrived. Two large men in suits flanked Derek and led him toward the door. "You will regret this," Derek said over his shoulder. "Someday you will regret being so heartless." Nicole watched him go. Then she sat back down at her desk and pulled out her phone. She looked at photos of her children for a long moment. Elijah laughing. Isaiah reaching for a toy. Zoe asleep in her crib. These were the people who mattered. These were the people she was protecting. She felt no regret. She felt only relief. One battle down. One more to go. The Carter Foundation Gala was the social event of the year. Nicole had spent months planning it. The ballroom of the city's most prestigious hotel was transformed into a wonderland of lights and flowers. 300 of the wealthiest and most influential people in Philadelphia were in attendance. The money raised tonight would fund 5 new resource centers for single mothers across the state. Nicole moved through the crowd in a stunning emerald green gown, accepting compliments and making small talk. She had learned how to do this over the past year, how to smile and charm and make people feel special. It did not come naturally to her, but she had mastered it out of necessity. Her father walked beside her, his arm linked with hers. "You have done something remarkable tonight," Raymond said quietly. "Your mother would be so proud of you." Nicole squeezed his arm. Talking about Grace still made her emotional, but it was a good kind of emotional. She finally knew where she came from. She finally had roots. "Thank you," she said. "For everything. For finding me. For believing in me." "I did not have to believe in you," Raymond said. "I just had to give you the opportunity. You did the rest yourself." At 8 o'clock, Nicole took the stage to give her keynote speech. The room fell silent as she approached the microphone. "Good evening," she said. Her voice was clear and strong. "Thank you all for being here tonight. Your generosity will change countless lives." She spoke about the foundation, about the women they had helped, about the work still to be done. She spoke about her own experience as a single mother, about the challenges she had faced, about the people who had helped her when she needed it most. She did not mention Derek or the Morrisons by name. She did not need to. Everyone in the room knew the story. When she finished, the applause was thunderous. Nicole stepped off the stage, her heart racing. That was when she saw them. Derek, Patricia, Harold, standing at the back of the ballroom. She had not invited them. She had specifically told security not to let them in. But somehow they had gotten past the doors. Patricia was marching toward her, her face contorted with rage. Derek and Harold followed behind, looking uncomfortable but determined. "You think you can humiliate my family and get away with it?" Patricia's voice was loud enough to turn heads. "You think you can take everything we have and parade around like some kind of princess?" Nicole did not flinch. "Patricia, this is not the time or place for this conversation. There is no time or place for what you have done. Patricia stepped closer, jabbing her finger at Nicole's chest. You destroyed us. You took our company, our home, our reputation. And for what? Because my son had the good sense to leave you? The room had gone silent. 300 people were watching. Nicole took a deep breath. This was the moment she had been waiting for. You are right, Patricia, she said calmly. I did destroy you. Every last piece of your family empire. And I did it because you deserved it. Patricia sputtered. How dare you? Do you remember what you said to me the night you threw me out? Nicole's voice was steady, but there was steel underneath it. You told me I was nothing. You told me to drop my babies at a shelter. You told me abandonment runs in my family. I was telling the truth. No, you were being cruel. And now you know what cruelty gets you. Nicole looked at Derek, then at Harold. All three of you stood by and watched as a woman and her newborn babies were thrown into the freezing cold. None of you showed a moment of hesitation. None of you showed a shred of compassion. We did not know who you were, Harold said weakly. That is exactly the point. Nicole's voice rose. You did not care who I was. You only cared about getting rid of me. You treated me like garbage because you thought I was powerless. Because you thought there would be no consequences. She turned to address the entire room. This woman told me I should give my children away because I could not possibly handle raising triplets on my own. This man told me I was just a guest in my own home because my name was not on any documents. And this man. She pointed at Derek. This man looked at his newborn children and called them a trap. He emptied our bank account to buy jewelry for his mistress. He abandoned us without a second thought. The crowd was murmuring now. Phones were out, recording everything. But here is what they did not know. Nicole smiled. It was not a kind smile. They did not know that I am a survivor. They did not know that I have overcome more in my life than they could ever imagine. And they did not know that I am the daughter and sole heir of Raymond Carter, one of the most successful businessmen in America. She turned back to the Morrisons. So yes, Patricia, I destroyed you. And I did it legally, ethically, and completely. Your company is gone. Your fortune is gone. Your reputation is gone. And there is nothing you can do about it. Patricia's face had gone white. Harold looked like he might faint. Derek was staring at the floor. Security, Nicole called out. Please escort these people out of my gala. 2 guards appeared and began leading the Morrisons toward the exit. Patricia struggled and shouted, but it was no use. Within moments they were gone. The room erupted in applause. Nicole stood in the center of the ballroom, surrounded by people who respected her, admired her, wanted to help her mission. Her father was by her side. Her children were at home, safe and loved and protected. This was victory. Not revenge. Victory. She had built something meaningful out of the ashes of her old life. She had created a foundation that would help thousands of women. She had proven that she was more than her past, more than her circumstances, more than what people expected her to be. Later that night, after the gala ended and the guests went home, Nicole sat in her townhouse with her sleeping babies nearby. She thought about her journey. The foster homes. The lonely nights. The marriage that had promised so much and delivered so little. The night she was thrown out with nothing but her children and her determination. She had survived all of it. She had more than survived. She had thrived. And the people who had tried to destroy her were left with nothing but regret. Nicole picked up her phone and looked at the photos from the gala. Her radiant in green. Her father proud and beaming. The Morrisons being escorted out in shame. She smiled. Then she put down the phone, checked on her sleeping babies one more time and went to bed. Tomorrow there would be more work to do. More women to help. More challenges to face. But tonight she rested. She had earned it. Nicole stood in the ribbon-cutting ceremony for the newest Carter Foundation Center, her 3 children toddling around her feet. Elijah had just said his first full sentence, "Mama, look." Isaiah was pointing at birds and making observations that seemed too smart for his age. Zoe was holding Nicole's hand, content just to be near her mother. Raymond stood nearby, beaming with pride. "You have built something special," he said. Nicole looked at the center, at the women lining up outside, at the staff who were ready to help them rebuild their lives. "No," she said. "We built it. All of us." The divorce had been finalized 4 months ago. Derek had signed away his parental rights without a fight. Last she heard, he was working as a car salesman on the other side of the state, far from the city he had once thought he would rule. Patricia had sold all her jewelry and moved to a small apartment in the suburbs. Harold had a minor heart attack and was living in a nursing facility.